You cannot afford to miss a single moment of the next hour. Get ready to have your ideas about sexuality, love, and relationships blown wide open. It's time to get educated, entertained, and enlightened, as well as sexually empowered. You have now tuned into the Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy Show. Now, here's your host, Tanya Diamond.
Hello, everybody. It's Tanya, of course. And just a minute ago, I was contemplating that I was going to get to talk to you, perhaps by myself. I'm happy that that's not so. And for somebody that can basically talk for days and days on end without seemingly anything to talk about, I all of a sudden drew a blank. And I realized how cool that was, that I was sitting here with this complete blank going, what in the world am I going to say? And I think that's kind of fitting for the guest that I'm going to have on today. Not necessarily the blank, but the stillness of the blank. He's laughing. He's like, how in the world did she pull that one out? I think I like him already. I do have somebody that that I found just like I usually do with everything, which is kind of just this let it go and see what happens. But upon actually doing some research, I am just so thrilled, completely honored to have this guest in my studio today. So he is going to be setting up here in just a moment. Go ahead and pull that all the way up to your face, just like that. There you go. And then got his microphone on, and we'll see in just 1 second. Flip his switch up. There we are.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi there.
Happy to see you here.
You too. Very nice of you to have me.
So I would like you to, as I do with most of my guests, go ahead and introduce yourself and your name and what you stand for. Tell them, start talking about yourself.
Well, gosh, that's a hard thing to do. My name is Ratziel Bander. I am a teacher of a technique called Hsin Tao, which was a once secret technique, self-healing and regenerative technique, but was kept secret in China up until a number of years ago when I was given it to release it to the world.
I find that very interesting that there are quite a few people that hold so-called secrets or things that were passed down from student to master that all of a sudden now are feeling the need or the okay to go ahead and release that information.
You know, in many different traditions, they talk about this period of time as a time of great change, and it's also a time when a lot of the secrets are going to come out, and a lot of the hidden mysteries of the world are going to be revealed. So I guess I'm just part of that movement.
And that's fabulous. And I was very interested because this came from a monk who had then come to India, or from India to China. Is that correct?
The myth tells us that a very famous personage called Bodhidharma, who's actually known as the father of Zen Buddhism, and in the Shaolin monastery, he's also known as the father of Kung Fu. Well, this technique we've got is supposed to be his original movement technique that he used to heal himself and teach monks to be able to regenerate their mind, body, and spirit so they could go further and deeper into their meditations and their spiritual work. It's a myth. We don't know what the real history is, but yes, this was an Indian monk who originally traveled to China to preach the Buddhist Dharma.
And I find that fascinating because, as you may or may not know, this show is about Tantra, love, sex, and intimacy, and I see the origins there, that interesting that he's coming from Tantra, and of course want to say, wow, how much of this has Kundalini Yoga background in it?
Hsin Tao is actually a form of Tantra, but it's a natural form of Tantra. It's a very interesting and unusual technique. It embodied such an enormous amount of power in it that it was the seed from which they developed Kung Fu and the southern styles of martial arts from the Shaolin monastery. That includes styles of Qigong and Tai Chi. It encapsulated such an enormous amount of power, yet it was never a martial art. It's a type of natural Tantra. Are you familiar with a scientific theory called Emergence?
Go ahead and tell us about that, please.
Emergence is a theory that has discovered that when the natural energy that occurs naturally in nature is allowed to flow unimpeded, it results in perfection. I'll just say that again. When natural energy is allowed to flow unimpeded, it results in perfection. Now, Hsin Tao is a way of moving extremely naturally and getting the natural flows of energy to spontaneously start flowing. When that energy starts flowing, all sorts of amazing things start to happen, like self-healing, like this natural tantric effect of energy rising and circulating and flowing through the different organs. It's also an incredibly pleasurable experience. As well as that, mysteriously, it takes you into an automatic state of meditation, which is the only thing I've ever come across that will do that.
And that would make total sense if you were expanding to a place that you absolutely let go and more surrendered into the flow. And it sounds like a technique which enables the body to go back to what it knows as natural, maybe?
Absolutely. It takes the body to closer to its natural state of simply being without effort. And there's not a lot of theory involved in this. It's basically a movement technique, but it's very deep and can remove obstacles in many levels of the mind and spirit, as well as healing the body.
I very much love to teach in simplicity. I think out there are, every time we throw a bunch of bigger concepts, or not even the concepts, but bigger words, bigger, harder techniques, more things, we engage the brain more than we engage the energy and the body. And we raise more objections to enable us to talk our way out of it.
The genius of Hsin Tao is that it distracts the conscious mind by getting it to concentrate on certain points so that the natural flow can start kicking in. What's interesting is that the most difficult thing about Hsin Tao is to be effortless and not to put effort into it or try to make something happen. That in itself is one of the challenges and processes that Hsin Tao teaches you.
Well, that would be awesome for anything and everything that I teach, because certainly we're all trying to process. In sexuality, I get all these phone calls and emails like about technique, and I keep saying you just have to let it go. It's not about the technique. It's about the experience, about letting go of your technique and moving into what you're experiencing now instead of all this falera.
Yeah, well, that's a sort of very Zen attitude, isn't it? Just sort of observe and see what happens.
But it's hard, isn't it, to just be?
Well, we're conditioned against that. We're conditioned to strive and push through and make it happen ever since we're kids. You know, we've really, in our modern society, lost the gift of being able to just sit and observe, not only sit and observe what is around us, but sit and observe what we are. So we're often completely distracted from the essence of what we are and what the world is, because we keep trying to push through, make it happen. There's something that we miss in the modern world, which is the cognizance that the body has its own innate intelligence. Just like the world and nature has its own innate intelligence. And we often, because of our scientific bent, try to override that natural intelligence, and very often, you know, we get it wrong.
Well, and I think that if we can look at, of course, how we're programmed as children, we're told everything from, oh, you're cold, put a coat on. You must still be hungry, eat that. We're given a lot of information as children that take us away from our actual experience on our own.
Absolutely. And that indoctrination, that sort of building up of belief systems in us is something that people are finding, particularly in this time when they're noticing that the world is not a healthy place people are realizing that we need to change some of our basic belief systems, and to do that we need to go fairly deep. But if we recognize that the body and the mind has an innate intelligence, an innate ability to move toward harmony, and we can learn to tap that, to trust it, and let that flow guide us, we may be able to come closer to a healthier, more whole situation within ourselves and with the way we live.
So I see people struggle to have some of these experiences by becoming workshop junkies, or what I call the New Age victim, which is needing, 20 crystals and all of these things to help them. And I realize that all of us maybe need some type of paraphernalia to help us unlearn, because it seems so difficult or so far to go to just be, to just let go instead of try to grasp on. It's almost switching our entire how we do it. What would you say to that? I mean, people hear these are catchphrases: just be, unlearn, surrender. But I find it very, very difficult, not myself, but when I'm teaching or when I see people struggling with asking me, well, how do I do that? And what more do I need? What do I read? What do I practice? And I like the idea of micro practices throughout the day, of micro practices of consciousness of breath, instead of trying to sit for an hour and do something. And this is a little bit like that, isn't it? Because there are movements that you can do. And
you can do them anytime, anywhere, and for as long or as short as you like. Yes, look, all those things you've just mentioned are a huge, a huge concern with the people who are seeking spiritual advancement and guidance. What I like enormously about Hsin Tao is that we don't have to think of any of that stuff. All we have to do is focus on making the movements. And interestingly enough, we don't even have to get the movements right for it to start working. It's a very mysterious effect that it has. But we do live in a world that is giving us too much information. At the same time, we've lost our wise guides. So in general, we don't have anyone we can trust as the wise elder who can lead us on the path and show us the safe way. So we're constantly trying to evaluate and over-evaluate and try and figure out, is this genuine? Should I be going this way? And once I learn some catchphrases, I can think that I know something. We're in a dilemma in the modern world. We need some solutions to counteract not only the materialism and the what I call the moral bankruptcy that's rampant in the world at the moment, but we need something we can rely upon, can practice, can do all the time throughout the day, that's going to augment our lives, not distract from them, and give us something that brings us closer to feeling and experiencing what we are. Because that is the only real teacher. I can talk about it, I can talk about myself, I can come up with all sorts of clever ideas and phrases, but the nitty-gritty is all about, who are you? What is the essence of what you are? And when we can find that, perhaps we'll be able to understand once again what is the essence of this world that we've so effectively dismantled.
And of course, this is incredibly tantric conversation we're having here. So I'm thrilled to see that. I do believe that I teach breath work as my foundation. And though I understand, obviously in breath work, you're also using movement, and it's very subtle movement. And I'm very excited to understand the movements that you're talking about, because I'd love to integrate this practice, which is another reason I have you here, and I'm so excited about that. It seems like an unwinding in a sense to me, instead of a winding up and an unwinding and an allowing of the breath to come from a natural place and to once again start to trust ourselves. And it is an experience that trusting ourselves seems to be so difficult. We let those cues go all the time because we're not integrated in our bodies. You know, we're just thinking in our heads or feeling from our heart or going from our crotch, but it seems like the integration part just doesn't seem to really be there as much.
Well, I think this paradigm we've grown up in, which is you will learn what I have to give you and you will experience A, B, C, and D. Once you've experienced that, I'll take you on to the next level. Now, that's the way we learn everything from the time we're in kindergarten through university, through spiritual practices. But there is an other model. There is a much older model, a model that is perhaps very ancient. And it's the model of experience first and then analyzing that experience. I guess it's closer to a shamanic sort of model and idea where we experience and then analyze that experience and make sense of it. In that way, the concepts that I introduced to you as in, you know, you're going to learn A, B, C, D and experience that there and whatever, those are concepts with which I can limit your personal experience. Mm-hmm. But if I say to you, go and jump in the water, you jump in the water and come out and I say, what did you feel? Now, I can't limit your experience. I can help guide you about your own experience and help lead you closer to a better understanding of your own truth. But I can't limit you by saying, when you jump in the water, you will feel this, that, and the other. You're going to come out of the water and say, wow, it felt like, you know, like something that I would never even think of. Okay, that's your experience. That's you. You know, the path to God is as vast and as numerous as all the people that live on this planet and have ever lived and ever will live. We have a problem with turning raw and wonderful experience of the pure energy, the pure being. We have a problem by turning that into dogma. We do that to try and help each other, but it ends up trapping people. It ends up making people feel uncomfortable and wanting to go deeper and find something else. The way I teach and the technique that I teach is really all about giving you points of reference to look for on the way and slowly, with time, in your own time, learn to trust your own experience and come closer and closer to yourself. Therefore, come closer and closer to an authentic experience of God.
That is very beautifully put. And I have to tell you, the people that can't see this gentleman here, who is just very much like he sounds. So for those people that are visual, and how he sounds, of course, is like he's walking his talk. So just a very grounded person sitting in front of me here, very solid in his beliefs, and probably, not. He's exuberant without all of the body exuberance. And, you know, of course, he just ran in here and sat down in the studio. So great smile, which you guys aren't seeing. So
gee, thanks.
You're very welcome. And I'm very much enjoying the in a sense, the humility that comes from what you're saying as well. And not, there's so many people out there looking for another guru. And what you were just talking about is the fact that we are, in fact, our gurus, and that our experience leads us to our inner truth and is our guide. And there's lots of ways to get there, and this is one of them. And you had referenced some various points on the body that you would focus on in this motion, in this movement. And can you talk a little bit more about what that is?
Well, Hsin Tao can be practiced. There are various methods within Hsin Tao. Some of it is done standing and some of it is done sitting. The standing movements are primarily to regenerate the body. The sitting movements are primarily to regenerate and calm the mind and increase spirit in the body. When we're standing, there are various points of reference, but interestingly for, I guess, people who are interested in Tantra, the main focus of the movement is around the perineum area, which, as you know, is that very strong muscle that's situated midway between the anus and the genitals. And there are other points of reference that we look at, and we're constantly scanning the body, checking these things. We're checking that, the shoulders are not bunching, that we can feel gravity in the arms and shoulders, that we can feel the weight gently rocking backwards and forwards on the feet. We're constantly scanning. And one of the interesting things about Hsin Tao, I say it's not a movement, it's an exploration. Because we're not trying to get a movement right. And, you'll probably never, ever get it right. Because every day you're faced with different challenges. You're faced with different emotional challenges, physical challenges, whatever. And we don't want to push through them and make a movement that looks correct. What we want to do is explore our points of reference within the body and see how we can negotiate through our present situation today and what develops from it. And you know what the body is like? If you push on the body, it locks up. If you are really gentle and you sort of ease it and comfort it and let it just move at its own way, gently it loosens up, it expands, it becomes softer, it becomes more pliable, more responsive. And that's the way we work with Hsin Tao. In fact, it's a way of treating yourself in a very sensual and gentle and considerate manner.
Almost like making love to yourself.
It is without any doubt the most pleasurable experience I've ever had from a sort of, what you would call a technique. And, I say that with a certain amount of qualification. I'm fairly, past the mid-century now. And when I was, by the time I was 18, I had worked with various people on different Taoists and tantric techniques, and had very much got to a stage where I was producing nectar and various other signs that you had achieved a certain standard. So I'm speaking about Hsin Tao with a fair background of what else exists out there, and I can say without any reservation that it sends you into a state of pleasure at the very core of your being, which is incomparable to anything else.
Well, I am certainly excited about that then, because I've had some uncomfortable experiences and I'm ready to have some bigger ones. As an expansion is a great thing. It sounds, it sounds like taking, if we can take people that are masturbating to get rid of sexual tension and then moving into tantric arts to open an expansive ability to expand your ability for pleasure in your body. Now we're talking about the ultimate in self-love, the ultimate in expression of bonding maybe with the universe.
Well, yeah, I think it's sort of more cosmic, a cosmic type of pleasure. But I'll also say this, doing Hsin Tao will improve your masturbation and your tantric work. It'll improve your yoga, your tai chi. It'll improve any thing that you involve yourself in. Many business people come to me to learn Hsin Tao, and it improves their way of doing business. Whatever your potential is, it'll improve, because, when we find something that can cause us pleasure, the greatest pleasure comes from no stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest pleasure comes from purely being. So really, Hsin Tao is one of the things I've found that takes you closest to there in as quick a time as possible. In fact, we have a neurophysicist came and did an analysis of the techniques, and he found that in all his years of studying many different things, including shamanic work and martial arts, Tantra, very many things, he found that Hsin Tao stimulates parts of the brain that take you into an effortless consciousness, effortless activity that he equated with the way masters behave and the way masters use their brain. And they always appear to be effortless. He found that Hsin Tao stimulated that part of the brain and helped you become effortless in the absolute minimal time.
Well, and people certainly like to be expedient these days.
It's a silver bullet. Yeah.
We're gonna take a short break here, and then be back for more, fascinating conversation for me, and I hope everybody else is as fascinated. We'll be back in just a minute.
Contact Talk Radio.
It's on the internet.
It's consciousness in action.
Information.
It's your connection to empowering information.
It's what matters to you.
It's on the internet.
Contact Talk Radio.
Listen live.
Join in on the online chat.
Contact Talk Radio.
We're making a difference.
And leading the way at contacttalkradio.com.
Are you one of the 40 million sexless couples in the U.S.? Are you wondering why having sex leaves you feeling lonely? Are you suffering from the myths of sexual dysfunction? Do you know in your heart that there has to be more than what you're currently getting out of making love? To rid yourself of sexual ignorance, get more out of your lovemaking, and find out more about spiritual sexual connection, then you need to check out www.thetantrateacher.com to receive your free copy of the ebook called Secrets of the Tantra Teacher. Don't suffer another minute without the sexual loving and ecstatic bliss you were born to receive. Get to www.thetantrateacher.com right now. That's www.thetantrateacher.com.
Hi, this is Shaktika Wayne. You're listening to Contact Talk Radio.
Now is your chance to be part of the show. Call 877-230-3062. Call in with your questions or thoughts and talk with the host and their guest. Again, that number is 877-230-3062.
Hi, we're back from our short break here, and I am, I always say this. I say this all the time. I'm excited because basically I'm always excited. But today I am beyond excitedly thrilled because I feel as though I'm speaking with somebody that has an answer for me that I have actually been looking for quite a long time. So I'm just beyond excitedly thrilled. And please let us continue our amazing conversation about your fabulous art form. Can I call it an art form?
It is. In fact, one of the subtitles of the name, translated from Chinese, is The Art of the Enlightened One.
Ah, you'll see, there we go. I love this art form. So, of course, the biggest challenge with doing something on the radio is that nobody can see us.
Yeah.
That's always the fun part, too, because nobody can see us. But so to explain this type of movement on the radio, you've done this before, I presume? Well, you tried to explain it here, but we had pictures in this little blurb that I have here.
Yeah, it's pretty a difficult thing to explain a movement. But I guess you could just say that it's wave-like and very gentle. In the sitting positions, the sitting movements, you could recognize some of the martial arts that have derived from it, but it's much softer, smoother, easier, and there's this quality of effortlessness that goes with it that is just a very beautiful thing. It's so easy, really, that people can do it way into their senior years. I think my older client is like 87 years old, and she does it every day. So, at the very least, if we have an exercise or a movement technique that we can do into our old age that is going to keep us healthy and present, that in itself is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
And you're saying also you have personal experience with the rejuvenation powers of this, that not only is this a practice that can help us move forward from wherever we are, but actually have restorative powers as well.
Yeah, my experience with it, excuse me, when I first learned it, I was actually very ill. I had something called post-polio syndrome. And post-polio syndrome is something that you develop about 30 to 35 years after you recover from polio. And I had polio when I was about 5 years old. And when the post-polio syndrome started to hit me, it became very severe. Over an 8-year period, I declined in probably every aspect of my body, and I got rather grumpy at the same time.
Oh, no.
I was very grumpy. But my immune system had collapsed. My muscles were atrophying. I could walk probably 2 out of 4 weeks. And when I did walk, I often had to use a walking stick. I would get massive spasms through my body that would lay me on the floor, and I have to be lifted into a bath to try and enable me to move again. It was, a real disaster. I also, at that stage, had a suspected tumor in my lung. Anyway, I went to see a Chinese herbalist for actually this, what was supposed to be a tumor in the lung. And I'd known this guy. He was a Grand Master. I'd known him for about 25 years, and we were in Sydney in Australia at the time. And I went to him and said, I need some herbs for this thing because it might be cancer. And he saw me sort of stagger in with my walking stick. And he started saying to me, no, I can't give you herbs for cancer. It's illegal. And I said, well, we don't know it's cancer. Just give me the herbs. So
label it for something else.
He wasn't used to being spoken to like that. So we had a raging argument for a while, and then he acquiesced. He gave in finally and started giving me a prescription for some herbs. And while he was writing this prescription, he said, for the last 2 weeks, I've been getting a message. I've got to teach this technique that he said can cure anything. He said it's been a secret technique, and it's time it was released to the world because it could do some good. And I'm supposed to teach it to somebody who lives in the mountains. And it just so happened I lived in the mountains.
I would have been moving to the mountains if I didn't.
Well, he said, do you want to learn the technique? And I said, no.
Oh, no.
I couldn't do anything at that stage. I'd practiced many things all my life, and the most gentle yoga asana used to send me into a backward spin. I was that far gone, really, with the post-polio syndrome. So I said no, and he said, well, I think you can do it. Watch this. And he showed me some of the movements that he did sitting down, and I thought, well, okay, I'll learn that. And over a 2-year period, he traveled to my house in the mountains, which was about an 1.5-hour journey each way, to teach me the technique. And when I first learned it, I had trouble brushing my teeth. I mean, my arm was so weak that it would hurt to brush, do a repetitive motion like that. I couldn't hold a book up in bed. I couldn't lie on my back. There were so many things I couldn't do. And within the first 2 weeks, I think, it could have been a week or 2 weeks, I started brushing my teeth without a big hassle. And I started being able to hold a book in bed. Now, these are tiny and probably insignificant things for most people, but for me at that stage, these were monumental leaps. And so it gave me the impetus, the courage and the confidence to carry on through the ups and downs and practice the technique daily and learn more of it. And within a year, everything had changed. I was probably about 80% better.
That is pretty astounding. I mean, that's, and I'm sure the medical allopathic community was blown away by that experience.
They don't believe it.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Post-polio syndrome is an incurable syndrome.
Yeah.
I've even had people, doctors, when I've told this story, stand up and say he's lying.
Yes.
But that was my experience. And when I was released to go and start teaching it, it sort of happened. I didn't know how I was going to start teaching it. I actually started teaching it in America. I was given money to come to America, and many people, including a number of clairvoyants, told me I was going to start teaching it in America. And I would say, well, that's ridiculous. I don't know anybody in America. What am I supposed to do? Stand on the tarmac and sort of wave and say, I'm here.
Put your hat out and go, I'm here to save you.
Let me teach you this technique that nobody knows anything about.
And in a sense, you've done that. Yeah,
what happened was people started asking me questions, and because of this genuine interest that Americans have, they drew me out and started me talking about it, and then really, in a way, forced me to start teaching them. So that's how I started teaching. It was here in America. America is responsible for this teaching being released to the world.
Well, we're thrilled about that.
Since then, I've taught in many countries throughout the Western world, and what I've seen opened my eyes to the possibilities of Hsin Tao far beyond what it did for me. I've seen a number of people be able to walk again. I've seen people with, incurable problems like, I don't know, so many things, like Lyme disease, for example, severe arthritis. The list goes on and on and on. It seemed to me that Hsin Tao was working as if it was tailor-made for each person who did it. If their interest or their problem was in a particular area, the Hsin Tao would go there. There's not really much explanation that I can give around that, but the observation of it was really astounding and continues to amaze me.
Well, it seems like that if you were to open, and I use the framework of allowing the body to integrate completely with the energy being able to flow, that you would remove these, whether they were energetic blocks that we've created in ourselves from emotional problems, whether they were physical inflammation. And I always think of it as just, if you're blocked, then you're going to have some type of experience from your block, whether it's emotional or physical, you're going to have that. And it sounds like this is a way to allow the body to open and allow the energy to flow, and to, like you said, it's your own experience. So it's going to go to where it is needed. I understand about curing incurable. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia some 10 years ago, and was a competitive power lifter, international horse show jumper. I jump out of airplanes. I do all sorts of crazy stuff.
Wow.
And I went from that to almost being wheelchair bound.
Mm-hmm.
And everything was so painful. And I could walk on a double fracture without problem, but I could barely stand to be in my body at that point.
Mm.
And I came to a point where it was either I get better or I die, because I'm not living like this. And I'm not sure what the process, other than my hardcore belief that nothing's incurable unless we believe it is. But the process was through opening my body. And for me, it was a Rolfing process at the time, with a gentle Rolfer who actually used more wave-like motions, and allowed to help my physical body start to mold as my energetic body, as I realized that I was laboring under shoulds in my life, making other people happy instead of following my own passion. But I would have loved, and will love, because I'm going to learn this, to be able to incorporate this in my life. So I don't need to go back there. But the doctors told me the same thing, even though I was diagnosed by the best doctors there were for this particular problem. Later on, when I came back and I was lifting and doing this stuff, they said, oh, well, you must not have had it. So I understand when you said the doctors didn't believe you, or say you were lying, and that's kind of crazy stuff there.
Yeah, I also think that going down to your bottom possible level, where the alternative is death, something changes in your consciousness, and you find some other way within yourself, and often the universe responds by providing whatever is necessary for you to either die or recover.
the teacher, the healer, or such not. Would it be possible for you to show me a movement or two? Would you grace me with that?
Yeah, but I won't be able to make any sound.
You don't need to make sound. I'll make the sound for you. I want to see a little bit of this experience here. And so I'm watching him now. And it is definitely like a dance. Actually, it's a very, very sensual dance. And from the expression on his face, this is a blissful experience as well. And sitting in the room, I can feel the energy of the room change. And as he is expanding into this process, it feels like an expansion as well for me. This is definitely cool. Very nice. I can feel that and watch from him sitting here to standing up and doing that, just the process change in the body and the energy flow in the body differently.
Yeah, the movement is that simple, but there's a lot in it to occupy your mind. But definitely, I have found it does not only do you good, but it cleans your space.
Well, that's what I could feel as you started to wave. I felt the change in you, and then all of a sudden, the change in me, and it was pretty cool. You teach, obviously.
Yes, I'm one of two teachers. I have a second teacher who I have qualified in Europe, but that's it. We're the only ones in the world doing it.
And you're sitting right here with me, and I'm so excited. Woo! My lucky day. And so you're in Seattle, though. I mean, I managed to rope you in, and I have to say that your emissary was quite, no, he's busy. And I'm like, but I must have him here. I actually wanted to experience you in the flesh.
Well, I'm glad.
And not just, via the phone. So nice. You are teaching here in Seattle. You're here in Seattle teaching, or what are you doing right now here?
Yeah, I've been doing private sessions with clients, and we've got a workshop coming up this Saturday in Seattle.
And so where is it? How do we get a hold of you? Does somebody else want to jump on here and tell us?
Well, you could call Ailey Welsh, and the phone number is 206-910 9766. Should I repeat it?
Sure, please.
206-910 9766. And if you speak to Ailey Welch, she will give you all the details and the information. I think it's fairly central in Seattle.
Okay, and is it like a full day workshop?
It's
one day?
10 to 5 with, good breaks in it. It's a nice relaxed day, although it's also, at the same time, it's an intensive learning experience. But it's a type of day where whenever you need to rest, to sit or lie down to rest, you've got plenty of time to do so. You can do so anytime you like. So often people think they can't come to a day workshop because they're too weak or they've got this problem or that. But the way the workshop is structured, you can rest and still get an enormous amount out of the workshop. In fact, to be there with that practice and the instruction and the flow that comes through is a very healing experience in itself.
That's what I was thinking. That's why I wanted to see you do that, because I wanted to be able to say that I feel if you are wheelchair bound, if you are, no matter what, if you can get somebody to bring you, drag you, carry you, whichever you need to do to go into that space, I think that this is something, I'm just intuiting this, but I really, really believe this. This is something that you're going to, just being in the process of experiencing, open and do some changes. And maybe that in itself will give you the ability to be able to start doing some of the movements. That's how I feel about this. And I'm endorsing this big time. So whatever you have to do to get there. I'm in Vancouver, so let me ask for I'm speaking at the Sex Show in Vancouver this weekend, and though that will be gloriously fun, I'm going to be missing your workshop, which saddens me. So do you have a schedule on a website that we can find?
We have a website, which is www.Hsin Tao, which is spelled HSINTAO.com. And there's information on that, although of late I haven't been doing a whole lot of workshops. I've been on a type of sabbatical. But certainly we can answer your questions and help you in any way we can.
And then as far as private work, if someone were to want to see you while you were here, do you have any openings left?
I think we do, but only for one day. I think I'm leaving on Sunday.
So your openings you have are tomorrow, I take it then, Friday?
Tomorrow and perhaps Sunday in the morning.
I'm waving my hand for tomorrow. Sign me up. So this journey, that this secret, this has been given to you, that you are graciously passing on to really, I think, to help humanity. And I'm so happy when there are these methods that come along that are profound, is the only way I can think of this, that can make drastic changes in people's lives, because we need to be in that, and we need to understand that it really isn't. I see people just really work so hard at doing things, and I see the struggle and the effort in the working so hard of not getting it right. And in when I'm teaching breathing and I'm saying just let go, and they're in their heads and saying, I've got to do it right. Did I do it right? Did I do that right? My favorite Kundalini yoga instructor says, it's not how you're doing the technique as much as what you're bringing to the technique. Mm-hmm. And would you say this is the same type of...
Well, I try and abandon the whole idea of getting it right at all in any way.
Why get it right?
Because how can we get it right? I've come across people and they tell me, they know the right way to live. Well, I don't. I don't know how to live. I wing it every day. I wake up and I make best do with what I have got at my disposal. And I think, in essence, that's what we all do. If we stop trying to get it right and start to follow the lead that we're given naturally, hopefully we could move closer to our natural state. And, our natural state is really bliss. It is a state of bliss. The world is in a state of bliss. All the atoms that comprise us and everything around us, including the air we breathe, they're all dancing around. They're dancing with bliss. We really need to find a way to allow that to unfurl within us rather than strive to achieve it. Because striving to achieve it means we're imposing our preconceived ideas on it. And how can we preconceive what bliss is? We don't know what it feels like. It's like people try to preconceive what God is. How can we ever do that? All we can do is try and experience within ourselves the closest we can to that. And the less concepts and restrictions we place on that, the wider the breadth of our experience can be. So I'm really all for not getting it right. I'm really for finding the way to unveil what is hidden within us, because all the truth and all we need to know is really there. And if I don't restrict it with my preconceived ideas, with my clever phrases and concepts, if I don't try to say to you, this is what it is going to be, then you and I both have a greater chance of experiencing what is really there beneath this world and beneath our minds and our consciousness. And the reason it's difficult to peg it down is because it's so extraordinary. What is there is so extraordinary, so vast, so amazing, that we cannot pin a concept to it. It's indescribable.
We don't know what we don't know.
The closest we can say is that our very essence, there's just a wonderful, blissful, perfect being.
And the word, it's interesting, the word perfect comes up, and when you use it, it feels different to me. I ascribe to non-perfect life, which is in a way you were saying, not getting it right. I tell people in my class, don't worry about perfect. You'll be perfect one day. That's when you're perfectly dead. There's a flat line there, and you will be perfect in that moment. So you can laugh in the microphone. He's laughing. And so in the meantime, what I would love is to have experience, and I would love to have texture and the breadth and the depth of each experience to be extraordinary, instead of subscribing to some flat line of, whether it's because people ask me all the time, well, ooh, you didn't walk in flowing purple robes, and, you're sitting on this stage teaching like a rock star, and you're not just all, and, it's active meditation. You've talked a little bit about this. I mean, it's about when you're in the experience, you are in the meditation. If you are completely engaged, you are the meditation. You're there. It's not something you have to try to attain. And yes?
Yeah, I think a good starting point is to really change the view of yourself right now and try to understand that as you are perfect right now. So anything that you achieve from here on is just more perfection.
I love that. I tell people, yes, somebody said to me, what about being sexy? I'm like, well, I'm sexy all the time. Just sometimes I'm more sexy. It's like being beautiful. You can be beautiful, and sometimes you're even more beautiful. I have to say that I love your smile. It is truly, well, it is. It's great. It just comes from the being, and it's great.
I've never heard that one before. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, see, you're very welcome. And so, and he is very eloquent, and he is very calming and peaceful, as you're hearing. But I sense a little bit of the fire underneath there, and from all the training in the beginning of your years that you were alluding to with the Tantra and the Taoist and all of that. Obviously, you have a lot going on in there.
Yeah, possibly too much.
So you're practicing all that undoing. How long have you been teaching?
Teaching in my life?
Yeah, no, this particular
program. Since 2001. I came to America 3 weeks after 9/11.
Ah, well, that's auspicious in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, it seemed to be part of what was happening at the time.
Did you end up in New York, or where did you end up first?
No, first Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. And they were ready for you?
I didn't teach in Las Vegas.
What happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas.
Then I went to Los Angeles, and it spread from there. Yeah.
Okay, and so they've been seeing you there ever since. Now, you've said that you've been on a sabbatical. Are you going to be leaving teaching soon? Is this something people need to... You have another teacher, you said, in Europe?
Yes,
and then
I
what
do.
You're doing?
I'm not really sure about what the future holds. As I say, I get up every morning and deal with what I've got and just do the best I can. So I really don't know. I'm comfortable at the moment in LA with my lovely clients, and there are various people that come to help by organizing workshops here and there, and it's just wonderful at the moment, and we'll see how it goes.
You're just sitting chilly, being in the flow, letting it all happen.
Yeah, well.
So if people want to find you, your website again, please give it to us.
The website is www.hsintao, which is spelled HSINTAO.com, and there's an email address and a telephone number on the website.
So we have a way to find you. And, of course, I'm going to put this information on my Facebook page and my website as well. So
thank you.
It'll be all over the place. And
thank you.
I am just completely thrilled. I can't tell you. I mean,
well,
yes.
I really appreciate the help and the support that you're giving. It's just fantastic. Thank you.
Well, I'm all about the unlearning and getting it more simple and creating a space of love for everybody. Show me that again, Gary. Gary gave me a minute. All right, so we have had a brilliant, brilliant time. I've had a brilliant time. I hope you've had a brilliant time, too, listening to this. And I'm going to be at the Taboo Vancouver Sex Show this weekend talking about Tantra love, sex, and intimacy, and have just a chock full of workshops and classes coming up. If you're not on Facebook, go find me there. I'm having so much fun with that, writing articles and doing all the rest. And I'm just kind of blown away. It's sunny out right now. Of course it's sunny. It's not just me. It's sunny in Seattle. So I want to say goodbye to everybody, and we're going to wrap it up and see you next week for some more excitement here with me.
Bye
Anyway,
now.
bye.
Thank you.
You have been listening to the Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy Show with your host, Tanya Diamond. Don't miss next week's show at Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until then, visit our website at www.tanyadiamond.com. That's TANJA for more information on workshops and classes.